4,000 years ago, a physician described a man who couldn't eat, sleep, or think straight and blamed a god. Ancient humans were secretly depressed too, and the evidence has been hiding in plain sight for millennia. For over 300,000 years, every single one of your ancestors carried a brain built to do exactly this: to get heavy, to go quiet, to pull back from the world for a while. The same weight you might be carrying right now. They didn't have a word for it. They didn't have a pill for it. Just the feeling itself, and whatever their tribe believed was causing it. So what was actually happening to them? The answer changes how you think about ancient medicine, evolution, and why depression exists at all. We can't know what any one ancient person was thinking, but we know exactly what they couldn't hide. Picture him, sitting at the edge of the cooking fire while everyone else eats, his bowl untouched for the third day running. His children would have noticed too, not because anyone explained it to them, just because the man who used to walk them to the river had stopped getting up. Nobody asks how he feels inside. That question barely exists yet. Nobody needs to ask. In a group of 50 people who see each other every single day, somebody always notices. So somebody goes and gets the healer. In Mesopotamia, that's the Ashapu, part priest, part doctor. He looks the man over and names the cause. Not a sickness in the body, a god's hand on him. Hand of Adad, hand of Ea. Depending on the symptoms, a different god gets blamed each time. Then he mixes a treatment, a sorrow plant, given so that sorrow may not approach a man, and hands it over the same way you'd hand someone medicine today. Notice what that diagnosis actually did for the man. It wasn't his fault. He hadn't failed or weakened. A god did this to him. This is among the earliest surviving written medical records on Earth, around 2000 BCE. That's the same physician from the opening, pressing these exact symbols into wet clay. The word used for it is its own kind of evidence. Translated, it reads, "His heart is low," filed right next to fevers and seizures. Not poetry, just medicine. Picture the same moment, a continent away. An Egyptian healer presses 2 fingers to the wrist, listening for what he believes is the heart itself, speaking through the blood. To them, the heart wasn't just an organ, it was the mind. He'd never know that, of course. Mesopotamia and Egypt never compared notes. Centuries later, in Greece, the same list of symptoms gets a third explanation. Hippocrates calls it too much black bile, melancholia. Wrong theory, but notice, the list hasn't moved. And he'd have had no way of knowing that either. 3 different answers for one man's worth of symptoms, none of them in conversation with each other. The gap between that first tablet and this one is about 1,600 years, the same span separating us from the fall of Rome. Same symptoms every time. That's not coincidence, which creates an even bigger problem. 4,000 years of records is impressive, until you remember Homo sapiens has been around for roughly 300,000 years. That paper trail covers about 1% of our existence. The other 99% left nothing written down, which doesn't mean it wasn't happening. It just means nobody was holding a pen yet. So researchers went looking for the next best thing. Not fossils, not tablets, but people living close to how humans lived before any of this got written down. Anthropologist Edward Shefflin spent years with the Kaluli people of Papua New Guinea, where hardship was constant. Disease, child loss, conflict, and went looking for depression. He almost couldn't find it. Not proof, a clue. What he saw instead was grief that ran its course. A man who lost a hunt, or a fight, or his standing might sit apart from the fire for a day or two, saying nothing, while the others quietly picked up the work that would have been his. Then it lifts. Someone walks over with food he didn't ask for. Someone sits close enough that the silence isn't just his anymore. Nobody asks him to explain himself. Nobody needs an apology. The fire is still there, and so is his place next to it. The weight goes with it, like a fever that spikes, does its job, and breaks. Maybe that's what happened to the man on the tablet too, in a different language, around a different fire. We'll never know for sure, but the shape fits. And when groups like this get pushed off their land, the pattern flips fast. Same biology, different conditions. Most studies on groups like this find the same thing. Depression rates climb fast. It's not that these people change.
The ground under them did. And that sentence is about to answer something doctors have argued over for decades.
If depression is this miserable, why didn't evolution just delete it? Evolutionary psychiatrist Randolph Nesse compares it to a smoke alarm. It's not broken when it shrieks over burnt toast. Annoying, not broken. It's built to assume the worst, because missing a real fire costs you a lot more than one false alarm. Imagine fumbling an easy throw on a hunt in front of everyone you'll eat dinner with tonight, the kind of mistake the whole group still brings up next week. The urge to disappear instead of facing them again tomorrow isn't weakness. It's the same mechanism low mood runs on, just scaled down to one bad afternoon. In a small ancestral group of 40 to 150 people, losing your standing like that was genuinely dangerous. It activated many of the same stress systems your body uses when something's actually hunting you. Get too loud, too visible, too exposed after a public failure, and the group might push you out. And out means no food, no protection, no backup. So the brain pulls the plug. Go quiet, save your energy, survive. And alarms like that are built to do one more thing: reset once the danger passes, which is finally an answer for the man on that very first tablet. One thing this doesn't mean: that severe, lasting depression is just fine. Just adaptive. The system can still break. It's not a switch you can simply flip back. But the original version of it wasn't trying to ruin your life. It was trying to end a bad week before it turned into a bad year. Then we built cities, filled our lives with strangers, status, and screens. Called it progress. Here's the cost. Back then, embarrassing yourself, losing a fight, failing in front of everyone. It hurt, but it ended. Someone brought you food the next morning. Someone nodded at you. You were back in. And you couldn't have hidden any of it in the first place. Not from people you saw every day and depended on for your next meal. The man by the fire had 50 people who'd notice if he vanished for 3 days. Now picture the modern version. You can vanish from most people's lives for 3 days and nobody checks their phone. You can have the worst week of your life and small talk through a checkout line without a single person knowing. You can lie in bed at 1 a.m. scrolling through 300 people's best days while having one of your worst. A bad post follows you online forever. A layoff has no group to walk back into. There's no moment where anyone declares it over. Same alarm, no off switch. Hiding it only got easy once the group disappeared. We call that heaviness a personal failing. But what if it's not a failing at all? What if it's not your mind malfunctioning? What if it's doing exactly what it was built to do, in a world it was never built for? For 300,000 years, that alarm worked. It fired when you lost standing. It pulled you back so you'd live to try again. It reset the moment the group let you back in. One bad week, a few days at the edge of the fire, then a hand reaching out to pull you back into the noise and the warmth, to people who'd already half forgiven you before you asked. Now it fires in a city of strangers, on a platform that never forgets, with nobody bringing you food in the morning. It's still doing exactly its job. It just has nowhere left to send the signal. That physician, 4,000 years ago, didn't have a word for any of this. He had a story. The man in front of him hadn't failed, hadn't weakened. He'd been seized by the hand of a god. Maybe it was never a god's hand, just an old alarm, still doing its job.